Julian Brooks stood at the edge of the marina, the sunset casting amber light across the water, bathing the luxury yacht in a glow that shimmered like gold leaf. The sleek vessel floated like a promise of power-white, clean-lined, exuding the kind of exclusivity that only wealth could manifest. He adjusted the cuff of his tailored navy suit, its Italian fabric whispering against his skin. His shoes gleamed, his Rolex caught the dying sunlight, and his calm expression masked the nerves coiled just beneath his surface. Tonight was not about indulgence. It was business. Networking with elite investors could be the difference between his company scaling globally or plateauing in obscurity. Solvault was more than a startup. It was a revolution in clean energy storage. Julian had poured 5 years of sweat, sleepless nights, and soul into the company. Now, with a prototype that could change urban infrastructure forever, he needed partners. And this yacht, full of moguls, fund managers, and billionaire decision-makers, was the gate he needed to walk through. He was ready. He was worthy. He walked the dock with purpose, back straight, gait measured. Heads turned as he passed, some in surprise, others with the blank gaze of curiosity. A couple near the gangway paused mid-conversation. Julian nodded politely, his manner quiet but commanding, as he reached the end of the dock, the gentle hum of conversation and champagne-fueled laughter floated from the upper deck. He inhaled slowly and stepped onto the ramp. The moment his leather sole touched the yacht's polished teak, a voice halted him. Excuse me, sir, came a clipped, assertive tone. Julian turned, calmly meeting the eyes of a woman with a clipboard. She was in her 30s, slim, with sharp cheekbones and the kind of posture that spoke of authority. Her white hostess uniform was spotless. Her eyes, though, were not welcoming. This is a private event, she said, her tone professional but already edged with judgment. Can I ask what you're doing here? Julian's brow lifted slightly. Julian Brooks, he replied, offering a slight smile. RSVPD. My assistant sent the confirmation earlier this week. She didn't check the list. Instead, she scanned him up and down, lingering on his face a second too long. Her expression barely shifted. And you are? I'm the founder of Solvault, he answered evenly. I was invited by Charles Lennox. Still, she didn't move. I wasn't informed anyone else would be arriving at this hour. Julian remained composed, though the awkward pause stretched. The invitation said any time between 7 and 9. It's 8:10. She pursed her lips. Right, I'll have to double-check in the meantime. She gestured toward the ramp behind him. Could you please wait off the deck? Just standard security protocol? Julian blinked slowly, resisting the urge to show his irritation. I assure you, I've gone through the same background clearance everyone here has. Yes. Still. A few guests on the lower deck had noticed the exchange. One man in a linen suit raised his brows and whispered something to a woman in gold. She laughed softly. Julian heard the chuckle but didn't react. He focused on the hostess, who had now pulled out her phone, pretending to be verifying something. Though her screen was still locked. Let's just be sure, okay? She added, now smiling thinly. I mean, no offense, but we've had a few people try to sneak in. Julian looked at her, not angry, just disappointed. No problem, he said, stepping back onto the dock. I'll wait. You let me know when my name suddenly appears. Julian stood still on the dock, his posture composed but his jaw clenched ever so slightly. The cold night air had crept in now, brushing against his neck, yet it wasn't the chill that made his shoulders tense. It was the murmur of ridicule, the sting of silent judgment, and the taste of old memories resurfacing moments when his presence had been questioned, not because of who he was, but because of how he looked. It wasn't the first time someone saw a sharply dressed black man and assumed he didn't belong. But tonight, of all nights, it cut deeper. On the yacht above, the hostess had resumed her hosting duties, floating from group to group with a glass of wine in hand, recounting the moment like it had been a minor interruption. I just had to stop this guy who tried to walk in unannounced, she told a small circle of guests, chuckling. You'd think people would at least pretend to be subtle. Her audience laughed politely, most unaware of who she was talking about. Some throwing quick glances toward the dock where Julian remained. Then came the moment that shifted everything. A tall man in his 50s with silver hair and a presence that turned heads. Charles Lennox himself descended from the top deck, scanning the lower area for someone. He had just wrapped up a conversation with two international venture partners when he realized someone important was missing. "Has anyone seen Julian Brooks?" he asked the bartender. "He should have arrived by now." The bartender shrugged. "I think there was a guy earlier." Hostess stopped him. Lennox's brow furrowed. "Stopped him?" The moment Lennox stepped down and made his way toward the hostess, the air changed. She was mid-sentence, joking about Julian again, when Lennox interrupted. "Who did you just ask to leave the dock?" The hostess blinked, caught off guard. "Oh, some guy said he was Julian Brooks, but, didn't look like someone on the list?" Didn't look like? Lennox repeated, his voice like ice. There was a long pause. Guests nearby stopped chatting. Glasses froze mid-air. "He is Julian Brooks," Lennox said flatly. "And he's not just on the list, he was supposed to be seated at the head table." The color drained from the hostess's face. Out on the dock. Julian watched the interaction unfold through the soft glow of the deck lights. The security guard who had escorted him earlier approached again, this time slower, with discomfort in his stride. "Mr. Brooks," the guard began, avoiding eye contact. We'd like to invite you back aboard. There's been a misunderstanding." Julian stared at him for a beat, then slowly turned his gaze toward the hostess, who now stood paralyzed near the railings, visibly shaken as whispers rippled across the crowd. Every face that had once looked at him with suspicion now wore shades of confusion, guilt, or curiosity. The energy had shifted palpably. Julian exhaled through his nose and adjusted his cuff again, this time with calm authority. "Tell Mr. Lennox I'll be there shortly," he said quietly. He remained on the dock a moment longer, reclaiming his space, his time, his presence. He wasn't going to rush now. He wasn't going to soften his walk to ease anyone's discomfort. He would return to that yacht on his time because now they knew exactly who he was. As he slowly stepped back toward the ramp, conversations above ceased. All eyes were drawn to him, not with mockery this time, but with a silent reverence. The man they had mistaken for a nobody had just become the most important guest in the room. And he hadn't said a word yet. The moment Julian's polished shoes touched the deck again, the atmosphere shifted as if the entire yacht took a collective breath. The hostess stood near the railing, her clipboard limp at her side, eyes locked on the man she had dismissed. Her lips parted like she wanted to say something, maybe an apology, maybe a justification, but no words came. Julian didn't acknowledge her. He didn't need to. His presence now spoke louder than any confrontation ever could. Charles Lennox was the first to greet him. "Julian," he said, extending a hand with genuine regret in his tone, "I am so sorry." "If I had known you were stopped," Julian shook his hand firmly. "You couldn't have known, but now they do." Around them, guests hovered in quiet anticipation, unsure whether to jump into conversation or retreat into their shame. Some of them had laughed, others had said nothing. Now they wanted to be seen shaking his hand, speaking his name. One by one, the brave or opportunistic began to approach. "Mr. Brooks, it's an honor." "Julian, I've heard about Solvault. Incredible work. Are you looking for partners?" "We should talk." Julian responded with politeness, but his tone carried weight. He wasn't here to impress anyone anymore. He had already done that by existing in the room they thought he didn't belong in. And they felt it, every one of them. The hostess finally stepped forward, her voice a whisper. "Mr. Brooks, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have assumed." He turned to her slowly, looked her in the eyes, and delivered the sentence that would echo long after the party ended. "You didn't assume," he said. "You decided." The deck fell completely silent. No one touched their drinks. No one shifted in place. The only sound was the soft lapping of water against the hull and the distant hum of city life. She stood frozen, eyes wide, shame plastered across her face. She tried to speak again, but Julian had already turned away. He didn't need her apology. He didn't need her approval. Her relevance to his evening had expired. What followed was a transformation. Julian became the gravitational center of the event. His story had reached the top deck before he even got there. Investors who once gave him a second glance now leaned in closer. Deals were offered, partnerships proposed. A senior VP from a global tech firm asked to set up a Monday meeting. A Saudi fund manager offered to fly him out privately to Riyadh to discuss energy contracts. The same yacht that once treated him as a trespasser now swarmed him like royalty, but Julian didn't smile for the show. His smile came only once that night when a young intern, barely out of college, approached him with trembling hands and said, "Sir, I just wanted to say, watching you tonight taught me more than any degree ever could." Julian placed a hand on the young man's shoulder. "Then use what you learned. Because this world doesn't hand us a place. We build it and we protect it." As the yacht cut across the dark waters under a sky of stars, Julian stood near the edge, watching the city lights grow smaller behind him. He didn't need to shout to be heard. He didn't need to prove he belonged, because now they all knew. The man they tried to kick out was the one they'd remember long after the party ended.